Greetings, it's Chris, and this is my tiny house. Today, we're going to be installing a on-demand hot water heater, propane based, into this tiny house, so stick around. Our current existing setup. Now, if you're familiar with my tiny house from my various videos, the tour and so forth, you'll have already seen this particular area of the house. But when I first built it, I installed this particular water heater, which is a Bosch, I believe it's a 1.5 gallon. That has done its job fairly well for the last several years. I've decided to go with propane because this just simply wasn't sufficient. It's fine for washing dishes. It's fine for if you want some hot water to wash your hands with, but it just didn't lead to a very satisfying shower experience. Our water setup is such that we have cold water coming in here, goes into the pump, goes into a pressure chamber, and then that water gets routed to all the cold water faucets in the house. And then there's a branch off right here that comes up. Now this is already red, but this is basically the cold water in and then hot water out, and it goes into the red line here, which serves all the hot water, bathroom sink, shower, and kitchen sink right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to first off disconnect this hot water heater, pull it out of here, and then the new hot water heater, a propane one, is going to be mounted on the outside. So we're going to drill 2 holes through the wall over here. One of those holes is going to route this particular cold water line out. It's going to go up and into the hot water heater, and then hot water is going to come out of the hot water heater, back in through the side of the house, and then feed into this line right here. And that is going to then take the place of this unit. I don't think it's going to be terribly difficult to do, but so we'll see how it goes. But for now, I'm just going to disconnect it and pull the unit out. Obviously the water is all shut off and disconnected. I basically never reconnected the water after the big thaw in the spring. Incidentally, this location of the hot water heater is under my daughter's bedroom. This is a 2-bedroom tiny house. You'll want to see a video of the tour of the tiny house, click on the link above. We've got movement. So the plumbing in this tiny house is 100% PEX based. PEX is definitely the way to go in any kind of small space structure. It's super easy to work with. It's resilient. Cold temperatures, which are abundant around here in upstate New York. You don't need too many tools to work with PEX. If you really don't want to use any tools and work with PEX, you get the shark bite stuff. I'll link to some shark bite things in the description below, but that's it. So we've disconnected the existing hot water heater. This hot water heater was not a hardwired version, but it had a plug, which I connected to an outlet that I have under here under the bed area. So we got these 2 lines. So we definitely don't need to come up as high as we are here because we're not going into, well, I went up this high because we were going into the top of the other water heater. But here we're just going to branch off and go through the wall. So what I'm going to do is this is a PEX cutter, by the way. You are going to need one of these. Can you cut PEX without a PEX cutter? You sure can, but this gives you a nice, clean, straight cut. I won't demonstrate on my finger, but I will demonstrate here on the PEX. So it creates a right angle cut, which is really what you want. So we're going to branch off. We want to go below the framing over here and out the sides. So I'm going to just cut it right there. This is where a 90-degree turn is going to be put into it. So we'll get through this PEX pipe here. There we go. That was the cold water in on the heater. Now we have that pipe right here. That is just, like I said, going to go straight out through the wall. And then we're going to come back through the wall. So next step is to drill those 2 holes so that we know what we're working with. And again, I'm going to try to keep it the same distance as the new hot water has them spaced apart. They're spaced apart, you know, a couple inches, cold in, hot out. And I'm going to do the same thing on the wall so that we have two nice, neat lines running up the exterior of the house. All right, so it's time to drill a couple holes. Oh, as I squeeze my way back in here. All right, so we're gonna go just to the right of this 2x4 and just to the left of the 2x4. Right about there. All right, here we go. Like that. All right, very nice. Just to see if this is going to work. Let me just chop this thing up a little. All right, there we go. So we have two tubes. One right there. And I'm gonna get there. One right there. I don't know if you can see that. There they are. Cold out, hot in. I'm gonna see what that looks like on the outside. All right, beauteous. That's what we wanted. We have two pipes coming out. Now let me bring the new hot water heater over here, and I'll show you what I intend to do in terms of the routing of the water and the location of the hot water heater. Here we have the hot water heater. And you got the hot out and cold in. And this is going to get mounted right around here. It's going to be off the wall a little bit for safety's sake. Easily removable. There's a mounting bracket back here. So that's going to be pretty easy to do. There's even it's even designed to be like just hung up on something if you're only using it temporarily for something. So let's see where we are here. We're in good shape. So I've put these angles down here, right? So we've got hot coming out of the heater, cold going into the heater. And next we are going to mount this thing. So down here, I've taken the input and exit points of the heater and turned them basically into 1/2-inch PEX termination points. And then once this is mounted, it's basically gonna just sit right on top of these things. So the next step here is to get this put up on the wall. And I'm gonna mount it to a 2x4 pressure treated. That will allow me to then mount that 2x4 to the wall. So there'll be a good amount of, a couple inches space between wall and heater. It'll also make it possible to remove the unit quite easily in the off season. So this is the part where we mount we mount the unit to the 2x4, and then we're gonna drive the 2x4 into the wall right at the proper height. You'll see what I'm talking about momentarily. Yeah, there's a place up here for the screw to reside. Let's get this fairly even on here. All right. Oh, hey now. And down here at the bottom, we have the same situation. Hold on. I'm gonna center it on here. Okay, 2x4 now attached to back of unit. Large 3-inch screw in the top and one in the bottom. I have now this mounted to the 2x4. I have the 3-inch screw set and ready to go. Same thing on the bottom there. And now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rest it over here. Let me change the camera positioning. So now what's gonna happen is we're going to rest it on top of these. I'm gonna get 2 rings so that we don't have to remove that again. All right. With these PEX rings, you always want to make sure that when you finish a project, you make sure that all the connections have been, you know, all the rings have been cinched down. Right now, everything's just loosely put together here, but we're going to stick the unit on top of this. So that's going to look like this. That's 1, and that's 2. Now we're going to straighten this out a little bit. Something like that. The top screw goes in. It's nice and straight. So that's nice. That should do it. Let me back up a little. There you go. So that's it for the exterior. We obviously still have to connect the tank up to it, and we have to tighten down all those connections. But there's our in and our out. It's mounted on the wall. Now let me show you what's going on inside. All right, so sorry for all the deep and dark shadows down here. But we've got a connection to make down here. So we got to clamp that down, and then we've got to connect this, the hot water, from the outside to the internals of the hot water. And we have the elbow right there. That's going to get cut, and then we're going to connect it into the hot water system of the house. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more clamp rings. I'm going to get those, and then we'll get this all put together. Moment of truth. I've got all the remaining rings and things that I need to connect this stuff with. So I'm just going to slide these into place. One goes on there. And we've got this angle on here. The only question is where do we cut this so that I can connect that to that. All right, I'm going to tighten all these up in here. Since the lighting is kind of poor and it's hard to get the right angle on it, I'm going to show you what that looks like on the outside when you're compressing down those clamps with the special PEX tool. So let me get all these in place. You get the idea. Cold water goes out to the heater, hot water comes back. At least that's the plan. So let me cinch this up, and then we're going to go outside with it. All right, so the inside ones are all done. Let me show you how easy this is to do with these outer ones. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that the brass fitting is nice and squared up with the PEX tube. And then what you want to do is you want to leave a little bit of tube on the bottom and grab it right about there. Squeeze down, and then that one's hooked up. Then we got this one. It's in position. Squeeze. See, these things, they release once you get to the end. So it's like you can't open them now. So basically it'll stop you once you've successfully, or it'll let you open or release once you've successfully connected the fitting. Takes a little bit of strength, but it's not too bad. All right, those are all good. Now we've got 2 more up top. Let me get those done. All right, so now that we have it all hooked up, let's talk for a second about this heater. So this is a propane heater. It is an on-demand heater. In other words, it doesn't have a tank in it, tankless on demand. So what happens is you open up a hot water tap, water starts running through this unit. It senses that movement of water and then ignites the burner element on the inside. thus heating the water. And you got some dials here. We got gas, min and max. So basically this is your heat setting. So you can control the temperature of the water coming out of it. And then you've got your water, which is max and min. I suppose this will regulate the flow of water through the unit. Now, in various situations, you might have more or less water pressure. If you have, for example, a high throughput system, this might not be able to heat that water up sufficiently, so you might want to dial back on the water flow. So you can kind of, customize it a little bit. The unit has this deflector up top here, just because the heat's going to come out of the top of the unit and rise as heat does. And then that's basically it. There's a compartment down here for 2 double D batteries, and that is for the ignition portion of it, as well as, I guess, the display. There is a display down here. So I got to get a couple batteries. And then all that's left to do is on the bottom here, there's the gas connector, which I'm going to hook up to a 20-pound propane cylinder. Just going to get tucked away under the hitch end over here. The unit itself is a I can't even read that, Formee, M-E-E, F-O-R-M-E-E. Came pretty well reviewed on Amazon. I like the camo look, because I don't know, happen to not be wearing camo today, but I usually am. Yeah, I kind of liked the fact that it was affordable, had good reviews. Those are sort of the main criteria that I utilize. Is this my forever propane on-demand hot water heater? Probably not. We'll see how long it lasts. We'll see if it works, and we'll give it a fitting review once we have it up and running. But the link for this is down in the description. Here it is. It's the next morning. I had a little trouble with this last night. What happened was I hooked the whole thing up. I opened the hot water taps and got like no throughput. And the reason was I hadn't used the water system in a while, and some rust had built up on the inside of the pressure chamber. And as soon as I opened the hot water taps, all that dirt went right up into this unit. So I had to disconnect everything again. I had to back flush it, and then everything worked. And yeah, I actually took a shower last night, and it was really nice. The unit works great. It took a little bit of fiddling and adjusting with the water flow knobs and the temperature, but I feel like I got it sort of dialed in. They're both at kind of like 2 o'clock here. That happens to work for me with the prevailing, I don't know, water pressure, water temperature that I have here. But let me show you what happens. I'll go inside and we'll turn on the water, and you'll see that it kicks on. All right, so now I'm inside, running the hot water. The unit senses the flow, it kicks on, and then that little temperature gauge starts climbing. Now you can make it hotter. I find that this is that's a good temperature for what I use it for. If I'm taking a shower, I can definitely take a shower in 108 degree water. It's fine for washing dishes. There it is, 106 degrees, kind of just settles in on that. The unit's completely quiet. There's like a little window right here. If you look in there, you'll see that there's some flame going on in there. Let's see if I can get in there. No, it won't focus. All right, well, so far so good. But all in all, I'm really happy with this. But yeah, it puts out some heat up here, obviously. Nothing that would concern me, like I'm going to burn the house down or anything. It's pretty minimal. And this deflector does a nice job of getting it away from the house. All right, so there you have it. If you found this video to be useful, my replacing of this water heater with the on-demand propane one, well, give this video a thumbs up. I've got additional video content on tiny houses. I've got additional video content on my motorhome. So I welcome you to check those out. We'll be making more shortly. And for now, it's Chris signing off. Thank you. Enjoy. Get out into the great outdoors because it's friggin' beautiful. And, you know, nature. Love it. Thank you.